to the Wolf and Bull podcast. I am the Wolf, and that's what I sound like. And with me, I also have...
I am the Bull.
Yeah, and we have a wonderful episode for you, per usual. It is going to be quite an exciting one. But first, I want to thank our viewers and listeners for tuning in to another excellent episode. We have a special guest in the studio. It seems to be a common theme, just regular episode.
Great theme.
Special guest, regular episode. I love it. It is exciting. It is fun. And the owner of Americano Ammunition Coffee. Sorry, I had a little bit of a brain lapse there. And the Big Tin Cotton Gin in Queen Creek, Santan Valley area of Arizona. Welcome to the show, Kevin Ballentyne.
Hi. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Awesome to have
of course.
You.
Yeah.
I just love the name of the coffee shop.
Well, yeah, it's
really do.
Incredible. Yes. It really is, because I was telling Kevin, and Beowulf, she's here, but she's not in the episode. We were talking about how it's just impossible to find like a normal coffee shop in our area. Like everything is just, it's wonderful dessert flavored coffee. And sometimes you just want
everything's been
coffee,
franchised to death as well. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that, especially as you get a business being bigger and bigger. But having said that, just the familiarity of something local and quality is missing in a lot of places these days.
Yeah. So Kevin, how you been? I heard that you got back from like a backwoods trip. Could we elaborate?
So I've got a 7-month-old at home, so I decided I was going to go camping for Thanksgiving, because that seems, really smart.
With a 7-month-old.
Yeah. Yeah. So we picked up rented a 24-foot trailer and drug it back in some roads that shouldn't have a 24-foot trailer on it. Kind of got stuck and turned around and spent a few nights in the cold and made our way back home. So it was good.
You know what? Those are great adventures that turn into unbelievable stories later on, especially when that 7-month-old is 17, 18, and
That's exactly right. And just making memories, just trying to do something that's fun. I don't ever have a normal experience camping or in business or anything, so I just keep it rolling. That's
awesome. Small business in general is an adventure.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the middle of the woods in the cold on a 24-foot with no real road in front of you, but oftentimes it might feel like that.
It's kind of become like that recently, to be completely honest. I mean, the broad scheme of things, we are definitely in the bumpy backwoods section of time.
It's been so... I lack of a better way to put it. It's been so over-regulated, almost all small business. I'm sure we're going to get into this a little bit as we go.
Yeah, we will.
But it's fantastic seeing you again.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, so it's nice meeting you first time. So it's very very.
I was
pleasant.
First time I went into his place. I had a cup of, I don't even remember what it was, but I was bouncing off the walls for about 3 hours after that. So that's the kind of place you love.
Yeah,
there's something about warm caffeine. I don't know if it's my physiology or not. Cold caffeine doesn't do it for me. No? I got to have hot caffeine.
It's all about the cold caffeine.
No way.
Caffeine? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Not me, man.
See, I disagree. You're wrong.
I'm
going to say flat out, you're wrong.
Us millennials, apparently, or not us.
You're a millennial now?
I'd like to be
the
a millennial.
Bull identifies as millennial. I'm a boomer now. The Bull's millennial.
Everybody watching this went, how did that millennial get that gray beard?
Yeah, why? You've become really negative against boomers, Bull. I've been meaning to tell you.
You're I was going to tell you that. Every podcast we have, I'm pro-millennial, anti-boomer.
Yeah, it's great.
Hold it.
This has been Inception. This is Inception, brought to you by Wolf and Bull. But
so you don't know this, but I mean, that was an inside.
We had a long
joke,
long discussion. About
it's like we will not get through this whole thing today without him criticizing boomers.
Well, here's the thing: is I've almost gotten to a point where I've kind of, like, for lack of a better word, I've kind of like mind effed the Bull a little bit, because then he brings it up and he's doing the work for me.
Is that how that happens?
I mean something that has nothing to do, and he's like, "Wait a second, what do you mean?" It's great.
For all you know, that could be like reverse psychology.
I was going to say, I think that's like a double reverse.
That's right.
That's crazy.
It's like you're getting a double shot of cappuccino.
I mean, if it's cold,
or espresso.
any shot. If it's cold, unless of course you're like in Italy and you ask for an espresso, they don't give it to you anything other than scalding hot.
There's little tiny thimbles over there too.
Yeah, I've had it. It's great.
Is it?
Like, the cup's like that big, and you have to like shoot it. Yeah. At least that's what they told me as I screamed as it seared my throat. But yeah, before we get started, just a reminder for our listeners and our viewers, if you like what you hear and you like what you see, go ahead and you can find our content on Instagram. You can also find our content on YouTube. I believe Instagram is The Wolf and Bull, and then YouTube is at The Wolf and Bull Podcast. But I think I should jump into the monologue.
I think you should.
I've got a very special one. So let me go ahead and EQ this properly. America, the land of the free. The defining identity of America, first formulated by Thomas Jefferson, includes liberty, equality, justice, and humanity. According to Harry Truman, America was not built on fear, but built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. America was founded with revolutionary ideas, transcendental ideology, and a commitment to what was believed to be the ultimate form of freedom. This worldview, over the decades, trickled into all areas of American culture, from business to entertainment to even religion. American culture and ingenuity were stoked by the desire to be great. Over time, though, that desire for greatness devolved into a desire for equality, which devolved into a desire for equity. In the mid-1800s, Alexis de Tocqueville once said, or mused in his writings titled Democracy in America, that Americans are so enamored of equality that they would rather be equal in slavery than unequal in freedom. Slavery takes different forms. The forms most prevalent today are neatly tucked away and disguised as comfort, security, virtue, and empathy. Unironically, these forms of subjugation are reflected throughout American culture, and especially in a good portion of American workplaces. Unattainable levels of safety, inoffensiveness, and agreeableness have been elevated in preference over liberty, and ultimately, the dream that many of us bought into one way or another. Benjamin Franklin once said that any society that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both. Due to our innate desire for security, many small businesses and many livelihoods were decimated. Unilateral decisions made on behalf of the unaffected restricted, in many ways, innovation, quality of service, achievement, and economic norms. Yet, many complain today as if it were impossible to see the economic writing on the wall. Again, as Alexis de Tocqueville once said, the American Republic will endure until the day Congress discovers that it can bribe the public with the public's money. That's why, in this episode, we invited Kevin Ballentyne onto the show to discuss the impact of the most recent changes when it comes to last years of small business and big corporations, the effects that they've had on businesses, and how operating a small business in 2022 America has changed. And I am buzzing. Your coffee is incredible. I am literally...
Hey, that was a great monologue, though. I really enjoyed that. And other than stumbling over Benji's quote,
it's okay. The coffee was just flowing through me.
I think it's one of my favorite ones. In society that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both.
Yeah,
that's kind of a powerful freaking statement for somebody that was around 250 years ago. You know?
He was a mischievous little guy.
He was incredible. Matter of fact, has Hot B done him yet?
Not yet. No,
that didn't sound right, did it?
History out of the box.
Okay,
History out of the box.
You better qualify that properly.
History out of the box.
Another podcast.
Yeah, there's an entire search category on the internet titled Hot B, and you don't want to search it. But yeah, no, I honestly, I don't want to get super political today. I really don't. I know I brought up those things. I brought up those quotes. It was not meant
heavy and political.
Well, it was more
liberty and justice for all.
I don't know if it's really political.
It's more just
that's just America. I mean,
you know,
that
is
right
that's a really differentiator.
It is, because, and that's kind of what we strive to do at the coffee shop. I mean, we sell coffee and we sell ammo. And what is more American than either of those? But what is not? We're not a political company. I don't have to say. The only thing I stand for is the Second Amendment.
Yep.
And that's it. And that shouldn't be a political thing in this country. It's given to us as a right. And if you break it down on that level, it's for everybody. And so when you say you don't want to get political, and that's where my business is I stand for one thing and one thing only.
Yeah.
Maybe two, freedom.
You make a really good point, Kevin. I think I have to back up, because I think, and this is not just me. This is not just the boomer in me. I think this is
millennial.
Yes, must be the millennial coming out in me somewhere. I don't know. But I tend to fall into the category of starting to view things through a lens of politics, even when I don't want to. And it's because of the environment out there these days, I think. And I think you're absolutely right on to correct me with that. I really do.
And because that's completely true. When I break it down on my level, there is what is American and what is not American values. And the polarizing politics and the identity politics that we live in today don't allow for that, because frankly, I don't think that that's what they want you to think, because you stay divided amongst yourselves and you'll never be successful as a country. And frankly, the people that are in charge really want that. in my opinion. And I think that once you can stop looking at it through that lens of, is it either right or is it left, you can succeed. I mean, if you turn off the news and you talk to your neighbors, you have more in common than they tell you that you don't. Yeah. And it's one of those things that if we were able to do that as a society, we would be able to succeed. And I think that out here in Arizona, where we are, there is still the hope of that, because people, I'm born and raised, I'm a native, my parents are natives. We've been here for a long time. You guys are new here. And we love the fact that people moving here that want to celebrate and live like us and live free like us and not bring those politics this way. And if you can have free thinkers that will essentially prioritize freedom and loving, good natured. I'm trying to think where I'm going to go with this.
No,
so
I think you hit it though, because earlier before we got on air, you'd mentioned sitting in your cul-de-sac or on your street or wherever, kind of out front, right? Not in the backyard, out front. Garage open, probably cracking one or two and saying hi to the neighbors. And I mean, one place in the last 30 years that I've lived in California, one place did that. You know where I'm talking about too.
Downtown LA, Skid Row.
No, but the funny thing is there were just a bunch of guys around my same age at that time. And, the backyards butted up against the green belt, so nobody could see each other. So kind of, if you wanted to socialize, you were out front.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is they were as diverse as the neighbor next door from India, the guy across the street that was a mortgage broker, the guy behind me that was a trucker, and I didn't know what politics they had, didn't care.
No.
And wouldn't it be nice to have that happen again someday?
Well, I think the thing that's interesting to me is how, especially today, by proxy, not intended by the populace, but by like proxy of what people listen to and what they view and what they read, they've almost been put in like personally their own little boxes of ideology. And that's a form of slavery, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is, look, this show is about making friends. I've said that to each and every one of our guests. I'll say that to all of our listeners and viewers. It's about making friends, about getting to know people. I don't care what their background is, their story is, as long as we can talk. And it's unfortunate that in today's day and age, it's like we just can't have that normally, Yeah. It's just really disappointing.
Well, we talk a lot on this podcast about getting into an echo chamber, and
yes.
And you're sitting in a place where it's comfortable, and you're going to hear something back from somebody that you've kind of heard yourself in your own head, maybe. Those are nice, comfortable places, but they're a bit dangerous as well.
Absolutely.
And I, at least on this podcast, I know, the Wolf and I are wide open. It doesn't matter who we have. I don't care. I would want to hear opinions from every side. And I am open enough, and I know the Wolf is open enough to other people's opinions to actually go, maybe they're right about this. Maybe I've been thinking about this wrong, etc. I mean, you've already mentioned in the first minute something that I didn't even see in myself a moment ago. And I, being Mr. Introspective Boomer at the moment, I've got to stop putting that lens across the top of things sometimes, because it's really easy to do now.
It is. It really is, especially in the post-COVID world that we live in. I mean, you're still fighting about masks. You're still fighting about vaccines. You're still fighting about all of these different things. And unless you are intentional about, I'm going to think about it in a different way, you can get into that echo chamber, and you can be inside your own head, and it really only makes your own life more miserable.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone else is going to still be pissed off around you. But if you change and you're able to do that, you might be able to make the change in your neighbors.
Right.
You might be able to get people that think differently to actually take your opinion, and vice versa, because there's a lot of opinions now. I'm like, oh, well, I should have thought a little bit different about that, because, this and that. But I think that it really, if you take that away, you have more in common with your neighbors and the people around you than you really know.
Well, that's what matters, right? I mean, because we're It's not like I'm living next to Don Lemon, okay? I'm not living next to Fox News hosts. I'm living next to normal people, and I think that a lot of us should keep that in mind. But before we jump into the nitty gritty, or any further into the nitty gritty, Kevin, I would love to know, and I'm sure our audience and viewers would love to know, more about your background. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your time within the coffee industry so far?
So if we got some time, I'll go through the whole thing.
Let's do it.
So we got into gun shows. My dad was a gun show promoter for a while. We were doing small shows around the state, and we came across, we needed a venue in the Santan area. We found the Big Tin Cotton Gin, and it was a long road to make it a nice venue, but we were able to secure the lease on it and take it over and kind of transform the place from just an old building that used to be a co-op cotton gin. And we can talk about community just in the basis of how that started, but the transformation into a wedding venue and into a space that was multi-use, that was local, and people have always remembered this building and have always been around it. It's been around since the 50s. I mean, it's a staple in the community, and that's kind of what we wanted to create, was a space that it doesn't just get taken over and leveled and made into new track homes, because that's everywhere else. Let's save a piece of the community. So took over the building, and my mom is actually the one who runs that side of the business. And in February of 2020, right before COVID started, she needed a new partner. So I jumped in, I quit my 9-to-5 and got into that business. And from there, we've just kind of expanded into a multifaceted little corner of Queen Creek. It's
a great corner too. It's going to be just surrounded, man.
Thank you. Once all this construction's done and everything looked good, it's going to be a staple in the community for years to come. But to get back into the coffee thing, we started selling Black Rifle coffee at our gun shows, and kind of just started moving as an independent distributor of theirs. And as they grew, we decided that our values really weren't aligned, and we decided to try and find a better product. We were able to get connected with a local guy who's been roasting for longer than I've been alive, and we hit it off, made a really good connection, and we started selling this coffee and using that coffee. And we've kind of got together, made a couple new roasts that are strictly our own. And in the end of 2020, the building that we're in right now came available for lease. We decided to see what happens and take a stab at it, and took it over. We didn't know what we were going to do with the building. We knew we were good at selling ammo at the gun shows and stuff like that, and I knew that I liked coffee, so we kind of just morphed together one day. The ideas kind of came together, and it was like a light switch turned on, and we decided that coffee and ammo is going to be what we're going to do, and now we're in the coffee business.
That's very cool.
Awesome.
Thank you. Very cool.
Yeah, it really is a great story. And that cotton gin's been around since the 50s. And of course, cotton is one of the, the 5 C's or 4 C's of
5 C's of Arizona.
Yeah, and I know
don't ask me. I'm
copper and cotton and
copper, cotton, cattle, citrus, and climate.
Citrus.
We used to produce massive amounts of citrus. That's why, if you go up into the northern Mesa area, there's
that's right. That's the orange groves are still there. A lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot smaller than when I was a kid. A lot smaller than when my dad was a kid. But there was still that, and we used to produce. Yeah, Florida and Arizona. That's where you get the. Yep.
Huh. I didn't even know that.
Well, I come from avocado land. So it's
exactly.
literally everything's an avocado. Trees are made of avocados. The people made of avocados. I mean, it's literally, yeah. So
actually, if you take a slice of avocado and put it on anything, it's a California something.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's hilarious.
And most of those avocados don't come from California anymore anyway, right? They come from Mexico. So.
Yeah.
Avocados from Mexico.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I obviously, I would consider myself kind of an apathetic Californian. Obviously, like the weather over there is pretty great. The social, cultural, political issues, not quite so much. So, when my wife and I moved here, stumbling upon, your coffee shop was actually kind of a blessing, because not only is it like just a little ways down the street from us, but it's actually just regular coffee.
Yep.
Which is great. It's great.
Well, the roasting part of it is real interesting to me, because that's kind of a form of chemistry, really.
It is. It's an art form.
And does your coffee house can more than just brand that. It's like your formula, right?
Yep. It's our mix of different beans
elements
from and from different places in the world. That's where you get your flavor. It's the soil that the coffee bean is grown in, and that's what makes it have
that's what makes these coffee houses so famous too.
Yeah.
They'll get one or two things that are just a little bit different. Somebody else, all of a sudden, it's word of mouth.
Yep.
Everywhere.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So that's
you
throw a few bullets into
make it pop,
then,
it's really good.
So just a little bit of the secret sauce in there, if it want. This will really get them going, guys. I think there definitely needs to be, especially the last few years, a resurgence. Even though some individuals would disagree with me, I think there needs to be a resurgence of small businesses and growth in that area. Even though the numbers have never been higher. Not going to get political, I promise. But
it's just become way harder.
Yeah,
that's all. And Arizona is got I was going to say easier, but it's not easy for anybody.
No.
But it is less regulated than some other places. I don't know about your industry in particular, but a lot of small businesses would rather be in a state like Arizona or Nevada or somewhere like that than California for sure.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't matter. There's still tons of stuff, tons of hoops you have to jump through.
It is. And a ton in the state, but not just in the state, but I'm in Pinell County. And Pinell County Sheriff Lamb, you guys are very familiar with what he does. He is very pro freedom and pro just get to business and get it done. And Pinell County has actually been way awesome for us, getting us through. I don't know what I'm doing. I had a regular 9 to 5 before I did this, trying to get plans for a coffee shop pushed through the government. That's not my forte, and they have really helped out. I've got a lot of good people, and it's the same kind of idea though. It's community based. That people there, they have my personal cell phone number, and he gives me a call when he's got a question for me. He doesn't, write formal letters to me and do stuff like Maricopa County might do. And it's much more laid back and relaxed, and that's been a big thing. But yes, for business, pro business, Arizona and Pinell County is the place to this is the place to be for a small business. But it's still tough. There's a lot of stuff that you don't really realize is involved in just drawing plans and how they have to be specific different things, and it's been really awesome to work with some people that just want to get me open, because we need tax revenue out here too. They know that. They know that my sales tax revenue helps the community, helps their jobs. And as we grow out here, if you're just hindering it with red tape, you're never going to grow. Your economy is never going to grow. It's just common knowledge. I mean,
obviously from a governmental standpoint, there's got to be a balance between how you grow and why you grow and what you're looking to grow into, what types of businesses and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. But having someone to help you through the regulatory, minefield to get to where you are with the understanding that they really want you to be in business is half the battle. More than half the battle.
It really is. It really is. And I think that a lot of times, I don't know what it's like in California, but I could assume that
red tape.
Yeah.
Avocado and red tape.
Avocado and red tape.
Give you an avocado and then wrap it in red tape.
Which is so crazy because I've heard that avocados take so much water to produce, but yet California still prides themselves. It is
a 4D chess level of thinking. I've attempted to do it and I can't do it. So I'm right there with you.
California doesn't do shit with the avocados anymore.
Well, I'll tell you,
say that they've abandoned it completely. The highway we used to live along in San Diego was called the Avocado Freeway because of the 60s and 70s all the time. That was where the majority of avocados, if you got them in the United States, they came from that area.
Well, yeah.
No longer. Matter of fact, we looked into moving to a place that had
like an avocado farm on it.
Yeah, my wife's name is Jackie, and we were going to call it Holy Jackamole.
Well, now the plan's gone. We didn't trademark that. That's gone now.
Unless I want to move to Mexico and buy a big farm down there, then
it could have been Wolf and Bull's primary product.
We'd have let you spice it up too, because you're Mr. Spicy.
I am in a lot of ways.
The wolf likes. I don't know what is the thing that the spices. What's the
when I go
level?
To an Indian food restaurant, I get a 10.
Wow. Really?
I like pain. Yeah, it's a reminder that I'm still alive. It's
pain is just
my soul.
Weakness leaving the body. That's all it is.
See, he understands. He understands. Well, it's funny is because when I first walked into Americano Ammunition Coffee, I didn't do any research, so I had no idea what to expect. I was like, this is a really cool name. And I walked in and turned right and I'm like, oh. Wow, that would never happen in California. Oh, no, so I have to imagine the design and development process was a little bit of I wouldn't say like pulling hair here so much, but definitely in California. I mean, you'd have to sacrifice your firstborn child and bow down to local celebrities.
I don't think there's any way that you could have that shop.
No, I don't think so.
No way.
There's not.
No way.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing we get is people actually come in and they're like, oh my God, you really do sell ammo? I'm like, yeah, I guess I didn't make that clear enough, but yeah, okay. Yeah, flags out there say ammo for sale, drive through.
A little yes in between Americano and ammunition. Americano, yes, comma, ammunition.
That's hilarious. It is. It's but that's the fun part about it is to get people. So doing that, we do gun shows down here. We're very into the community. People know us. They're repeat customers at the gun show every time we have it. And when we opened it up, they were just ecstatic about it. And then they were the part that they got excited about was the coffee, because coffee is either like super corporate here or there is no good quality small coffee shops,
which baffles me. I still can't figure it out.
I don't get it either.
There really aren't.
No. Like, look, I don't want to like take a giant dump on Starbucks. Okay. I've been there plenty of times. Like if I need a coffee and I'm in the middle of nowhere and there's a Starbucks, just like with McDonald's, I'll like go ahead and have some, like, oh no. But like California, the difference between here in California is California, like every other street would either have like a mom and pop's Mexican food restaurant place, an Indian food restaurant place, or a coffee shop.
Yep.
And here it's just Starbucks and I think some other ones.
What's BlackRock?
BlackRock's
the other one.
Okay. Not the company that's buying all the American property.
Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know.
Maybe. Wouldn't that be a Inception-like scenario? But yeah, no. It's just strange. I've never had that experience in my life where it's just really hard to find like a really just general coffee shop that isn't Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks.
Yeah. But you know what, Kevin? You made a comment earlier that, and this was a non-political comment about, hey, the Second Amendment, it's part of who we are as Americans, and it's obviously integrated into your business plan.
It is,
right?
It's at the core of it. I mean, that is what I am. And I think that really, it makes me different. Obviously it makes me different than say Black Rifle and those things, right? They're really cool. And, they got awesome videos and really cool t-shirts and stuff, but do they sell ammo? No, I do. So it's kind of like a prideful thing for me is at the core of my business, I care about the Second Amendment and I care about freedom. And I think that if we can instill those values into people that are moving to Arizona from a place like New York or California that don't agree with how we think, and if we can show them that guns aren't scary, it's not like when you watch the news and everything like that. We're just people with a hobby that happen to use a firearm. I mean, there's no different than doing anything else. I mean, it's a hobby, and practice safely and smartly, we could really benefit from that, because a firearm is a great equalizer. If you think about it in the world, it makes people that necessarily couldn't fight if something happened to them. If somebody broke into their house, a gun makes that fight equal. And really, when you boil it down, it is an integrated part of our country, because our founding fathers saw a point that the government was not going to want you to have a firearm to defend yourself because of something they wanted to do. And so it isn't. It's not at all a political thing. It's an American thing, and we should be celebrated by every American.
And truthfully, when you think about things logically, if the government was trying to force people to turn in their guns and everything, which they always talk about a million times.
Hey, they did in Australia. Looked way down.
Australia,
real great down there.
They've got a proliferation of dingoes out there because it's too many of them. Anyway, but the point is, the criminals are still going to get their hands on the guns anyway.
That's exactly right.
And the crime is what you're trying to prevent. Not law-abiding citizens from having a tool that can be used to hunt or protect yourself.
That's exactly right.
Well, I think that because this is a Second Amendment friendly house, so and I think I would assume like everybody on the street is friendly to it, and that's fine.
If they're not, they're not. It's each their own.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I like, coming from that perspective of being like in the middle on a lot of things. Like, I just want people to leave each other alone. Like, it's like look, if you don't like what someoe's doing, as long as they're not doing it directly to you, which I'm sure somebody could be like, they're doing it to me. Like they could probably scream and yell on the line about it. But if they're not doing it directly, you just let them be.
Just let them be.
Yeah. And that's something that I think one, in your company definitely is reflected. I mean, I go into Starbucks and I get like apathetic smiles. I go to your company, I get smiles. Yeah. So, it's nice. People are happy to actually, serve you, and the quality of the drinks is fantastic. So that's a plus there, along with that support of, traditional American freedoms, as we should all have. I would love to know, what is your favorite thing about running a business?
That's
like how I threw that a little curveball right there.
Most business owners
84 miles an hour.
All the negative stuff they're trying to overcome all the time.
That's exactly. I'm like, oh,
he sits on the mound. He pulls back. Throws a 97 mile an hour slurve ball, slider curve.
Slurve? I like that.
That's a real pitch.
I've never heard of it as a slurve.
It's real. It's very real.
He just threw you a slurve ball, apparently.
He did. I would say the favorite thing about running a business and run a small business like I have is the fact that I get to spend time with my family. My wife and I are business partners in this, along with my dad. So I work directly alongside with my wife. She is the other half of my brain, and she is the one who can get the government stuff done and helped and pushed through.
Be honest, Kevin. She's 3/4 of your brain, right? Isn't that
7/8?
I mean, Jen's
let's be real. Like,
Jen's about 9/10. Like, I can't even remember my name sometimes, so it's probably a problem.
That's a really good point, though. The family thing.
It's the family thing, really. That's what made me want to do it. It's what made me quit a secure job to try something on my own, and it's a really big blessing. And we've been able to actually hire my sister in the coffee shop. She's one of the main baristas that open up every morning. So I get the whole. I'm around my family all the time, and it's really cool because my dad, growing up, was also an entrepreneur, and he had a few different businesses, and he was always around. I get to hang out with him. So like on my days off, I take my daughter with me and I go pick up milk for the coffee shop and do things like that. And honestly, that's what makes it worth it, because I work way more than everybody else. Yeah. Like it's 90-hour week really is like an easy week for me. And so it's really cool to be able to do it with the people that you love.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's freaking awesome. Man.
Now, if you want the best part about, running the business and the coffee shop itself is to actually get people, like you said, to walk in and go, oh my God, you really do this. And I have a conversation and I like to talk to people, and I like to see what their ideas are and what they think about it. The fact that when people tell me that they love the concept and love the idea, that makes me feel really good inside, because I don't want to be just another corporate coffee shop or a corporate wedding venue. We're full of personality and character, and I like showing people that, and it's really cool because it's fun. I mean, just being able to do it for myself is fun.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's obviously we'll dive into it eventually, but I think that's kind of something that I've noticed over the last few years is companies have just kind of, and maybe they've always been this way. Maybe I'm just getting older. Maybe I'm actually the boomer that I say that I am. But companies have just kind of shirked any sort of personality in favor of what they believe society wants them to be. And not to say that we should just be willy-nilly about everything and not have some level of rules, but it's like, look, if I go to somebody who claims that they're going to do something, like if I walk into your coffee shop, I'm going to want to see ammo because you're advertising it. I don't care about what the political affiliation is. All I care about is you say what you're offering and then you follow through. And that's the same thing with, I would assume, a podcast or any sort of business. And I feel like a lot of companies, it's kind of like they hide behind today's like just popular social movement. Yeah. And it makes them kind of a shell of themselves. I don't know if you're picking up what I'm putting down here.
You're stroking No, I'm picking up what you're putting down. But I think that there's an unfortunate consequence to kind of, this is an umbrella statement because it's about business in general. There is a significant, and I mean there's a huge gap between entrepreneurial, owner-operated businesses and even franchises, honestly, because there's this corporatization aspect of most businesses that you see that try to get everything down to the common denominator. And I know they do it because it's a formula. It's a formula for a certain amount of revenue, a certain amount of margin, a certain amount of success. And it has worked over time, so people follow that. But what you take out of that is personality. And what you've mentioned over the last 5 minutes about your family and about hiring, I mean, your sister is a barista in the morning, getting to know the community, loving to talk, spending all your waking hours doing this kind of stuff and bringing your family into the mix like that, that is unfortunately becoming more rare.
Every day.
It needs to go the other way.
It does. And I think part of what like we talked about in the last couple of years, that business has changed, and it's like a drastic change of being like woke and of paying attention to what they think that the people want, because I really don't believe that that's really what the people want at all. And when they do that, you not only lose that personality and that feeling of like a lot of these people actually care. I mean, you walk into any business today and nobody cares and nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to do their job. That's a byproduct of being able to sit at home and get paid to sit at home. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, people are expecting to get paid a lot of money to do no work. And then when you ask them to do the work, they don't want to do it and they complain, and then they write you a bad review, and then it's, cancel culture, and it's all down the drain. And that's been the biggest factor, I think, of COVID on big corporations and businesses. They think that every social justice thing they need to embrace, because if not, they're going to lose people. And I think it's the other way around. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, the reason they like me is not only I have really good coffee and ammo, is they like the fact that we're not like that. Like I just am not going to say that because the social media and the trends and everything, they want me to say different things and do different things. I'm going to do the opposite because it's fun, and people like that and respect that. There's a factor of that too, is companies going public, and that also plays into that same thing. Your quality always drops when a company goes public. The quality drops instantly because they want to try to bring the profits up for the shareholders, and then because of that, they have to follow what they think are the trends.
Yeah, right. And of course, the fringes of our society are always the loudest. They demand the most attention. And if corporations aren't really analyzing that properly, they start twisting and turning with the flow of those kind of conversations. And often wrong doing it. Yeah. But they still do it.
Well, I think there's also like because we talked about echo chambers. I think there's like a pseudo echo chamber created within corporate America, right? Oh. Look, I'm not going to mention anything in detail because I want to make sure that we get views. But I think that when it comes to, certain social events over the last few years that have happened, no one thinks any of those things were positive that occurred. You can list out just a long list of them. But what I believe is that, look, corporations, it's like what we talked about a little bit ago. Just be who you are and stop trying to please everybody. Because if I go into your shop, I don't let's make a bigger example. If I go into Walmart, which is, or used to be, a family-owned company, ironically enough, who is now creating the rules for family-owned companies by agreeing to what the government tells them to do, I don't want to hear them talk about what's going on. I just want to buy a T-shirt or some Red Bull and leave. A T-shirt and Red Bull. That's what I buy normally. That's literally what I buy. So it's just, that's what I expect as a consumer. Now, I'm sure not everybody's like that, but I think it's refreshing to hear that from you. And hopefully that is reflected across the board when it comes to small business.
Let's be real for a second here, though, because
I'm always real.
No, you're fake most of the time. I can tell, because I never really thought you're a real wolf. Anyway, what I was going to say, when I say let's be real for a minute, what I'm going to drive at here is that small entrepreneurial businesses is how all entrepreneurial businesses start, right? They start out as a seed, and you got to make them grow, and you got to do a lot to make them grow. The problem that I see today, and I've started and run a lot of businesses, and some of them have been pretty big after a period of time, but it is becoming so difficult to do so because of the trimming of the margins due to all the regulatory environments that are out there. So what ends up happening is someone like yourself, Kevin, you'll start this business and you'll start it running and you'll feel all like you're going in the right direction, and then a number of things will come at you to start putting pressure on those margins. And when that happens, you end up kind of going, okay, do I, cut a corner? Do I do this a little bit different? And then 10 years later, you're the same guy you hoped not to be someday. And it's a hard thing not to do. I'm not saying you're headed there. I'm just saying that's what a lot of people end up finding themselves over time. Yeah. And I don't have the answer to that, except that if you're in Pinal County, for instance, and you're in an environment that's looking for economic growth, that's where you should focus your attention, because it's going to be years and years and years and years and years before they're doing anything except grow, baby, grow.
Yeah. Well, I would think that has to be like, I would guess Pinal County is probably the most free market possibly in this area, because it's like a pseudo free market and sort of a
west of Phoenix is growing like crazy. East of Phoenix is growing
more lenient. Yeah. So I mean, which I think
it's intelligent. It's intelligent. You look at the dynamics of population growth and construction going on and everything like that. There's so much going on that it's ripe for entrepreneurs to come and really exploit's the wrong word. But you
grow. It gets bad, but yes.
It's got a bad connotation, but it shouldn't.
No, it should, because you're not, I mean, but yeah, no, to not exploit it, but just to tap into it, to give the consumer, that's what the free market society is about, giving the consumer what they want.
Yeah.
And if you can do that and you can give that to them in an environment that wants to have your business, you're able to thrive. And that's really, really what it is about. Cutting red tape is kind of the thing that really, if we break it down, we need to do more of, because our economy would be much more successful, and less taxes and different things like that. And you can call that political or not, but it's business. That's just business. I mean, the more cost they add to your product in one way or another is what you're going to have to pass on. Because I'm at the end of the day, I'm trying to put food on the table, and I'm trying to provide for my family in this way. And when you start getting taxed and you start having to pay these different fees and do different things like that, I mean, it drives the cost of things up. Diesel tax. I mean, think about it. How many times my coffee is imported. How many times does a vehicle that needs fossil fuels, that needs fuel to run, and diesel specifically, how many times it's touched adds a cost to what I do. And if I can minimize those transactions, and if I can get a better way of buying things, it helps. And the other thing that people really like to say about when they come to the shop is, you're not a $10 cup of coffee. And I try to make sure that I am providing a quality product at a fair price, because I could up my prices and I could do those things, and sometimes I have to adjust that. That's smart business. You can't not do that. But I'm not trying to squeeze every single penny out of this, because I'm playing a long game.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make a quick sale. I'm trying to gain customers for life, and I'm trying to do that and think about that in a different way.
Yeah.
And I don't know necessarily Starbucks is just such a monstrosity that they can do whatever they want, and they set the market. So when somebody comes in and says you're a better product and it's cheaper than Starbucks, they're instantly hooked. And there's a big enough pie for me just to get a crumble.
Well, and what I think is, and this ties into the last few episodes we've done, is I think the problem, because you mentioned shareholders earlier, I think that's true still. I think it's going to change, because I think it's going to become stakeholders. And when it comes to companies like Starbucks, I think they've lost, or Walmart or Amazon or a lot of these organizations, I think they've lost touch with who their customer base is. Yeah, they've got all the metrics. They have all the data. Data's fungible. You can figure out who your customer base is. You can play with the numbers and figure out what it is down to exact T.
They're not a coffee shop
No,
anymore.
They're not a coffee shop anymore. Well, I understand. So I guess my point being is it's just interesting, because the experience of walking into a Starbucks is... like this is going to kiss a Starbucks sponsorship goodbye. It's so stale. It's stale. And the reason I say that is because it's like the people that work there don't have pride in their company because they don't know what their company is.
Yeah.
That's what I think it comes down to. I think that people have pride in their company when they can understand what their company is. Not necessarily what they do, but what it is from the owner's perspective. I think the leadership and the vision and all that trickles down. And you can't do that in a lot of ways at a certain point. Not because it's impossible, but because the barriers in between, the policy, the different mediums of communication kind of just water that stuff down. Like, I think an experience at like the traditional original Starbucks in Seattle is probably different than
I'm sure.
Here.
I'm sure. And I think you've hit on a subject that I pound on all the time, of course.
Just pounding away.
I just can't help myself, because I'm such an advocate for small business. I really am. I belong to a big corporation at times. I understand their position in the markets and why they are what they are and all that kind of thing. But when you continue to see across even the last decade or so, this all arrows point in the direction of supporting larger and larger companies. Mm-hmm. But 80%-ish of the United States revenue is small business generated.
Supposedly.
So what you have to start looking at is if you as a, I don't care if you're countywide, city, state, federal, whatever, if you create a requirement level for all parties in the same business, all you're doing is pushing small business owners completely out of the market. Mm-hmm. Because the large guys, Starbucks, which is actually a bank, not a coffee shop, if you look at the stuff behind them and what they actually do.
They're a bank.
They're a bank.
Does BlackRock own them?
No, I don't know. Not BlackRock coffee.
Starbucks, sure. BlackRock, hybrid.
I mean, you know what I'm saying, right?
If
you have an app, a Starbucks app, and you're constantly putting your money in there, they're holding it for a period of time.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
They are a bank.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I remember reading about this back when I was a kid, and this is when Sears, if you remember what kind of company
What's
that was.
that?
Exactly.
Was it a magazine?
During the time when Montgomery Ward, Sears, and J.C. Penney's ran the retail.
Was
world,
Roebuck
right?
still alive then?
Perhaps he was. That was before the Willis Tower became the Willis Tower. It was the Sears and Roebuck's Tower in Chicago. But they came out with this wonderful thing called a Discover card. Wow, what is that?
I mean, Sears was Discover?
Sears is a bank.
What the heck?
They're the ones that owned Discover and created that specifically because they looked at their business model and said, well, I got all these people captured all the time in our place. We're going to finance it. Why would we outsource that to some other bank? Why don't we become the bank? Yep. And that's exactly what people like start. Now, they don't do it by themselves, of course.
I knew to some degree some of these things, but the bull has blown my mind. I have not thought about it that way, but it makes everything way more sinister.
Well, it really does. The thing you got to remember is, and this is, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, and I apologize for this, but I always do. Still, you'll get used to it.
Literally, always.
I do. Yeah. But these businesses are drawn up and designed originally around people like you and I. You know, that we're doing these things for a particular reason. We have missions, we have goals, we have family members, we have all this kind of stuff. And at some point along the way, whether it's going public or whether it's something else converging with other companies, they morph into this identity that is no longer the owners. And when that happens, these different things occur. And I don't know the antidote to that. I really don't, except to continue to propagate the idea of more and more small business getting at it.
Yeah.
And not being dictated to by the large ones.
Well, that kind of segues right into our next topic. But before we do so, I'm going to throw a 99-mile-an-hour curveball at you.
You already had a slurve ball.
Slurve ball.
So, actually now it's a fastball. We've talked about, your favorite part of running Americano Ammunition Coffee. What are the biggest challenges?
The red tape. I'll say it right there. It's the red tape and the taxes. That's the biggest hurdle that we face. I didn't realize that having to do the taxes, just like the TPT sales tax in the state of Arizona and that kind of stuff, was so burdensome. And it's not only just actually having to pay the taxes, but just the program to go and to submit, in every single step there's always either another fee or another form you got to fill out. That's the worst part about business in general, I believe. That those are the biggest challenges. The other biggest challenge is really trying to give the customer that product at that good price. It's hard to find that and not have to cut corners. So like, how do I do it? What do I sacrifice? What is it? Is it the cup? Like it cost me like over $1 per cup just in because I want quality cups.
Yeah.
So do I sacrifice the cup so the lid pops off or the lid stays on and it falls over in your car and it doesn't spill? Well, it's going to cost me more money. So how do I get the best bang for the buck is another very big challenge of business. But red tape, red tape and
cost control, right?
Well, cost control has to be out of control as of right now, just because with all the hiccups in the supply chain and all that jazz.
Half the challenge of owning a business is trying to budget what you're going to do. Because, I've known people that have started restaurants because they like to eat.
Yeah.
Wrong reason.
Wrong reason.
And they might be the best cook in the world, but if you don't know how to market, if you don't know how to control your costs, if you don't know how to put together logical databases of information so you can pay your taxes and pay your workman's comp and do all the other shit you have to do, then you're screwing yourself.
So you're
going to be sitting alone. And
you're telling me that if I want to start my own bank because I love money, that's just not. It's not how it should go. Like if I want to have
what the root of all evil is.
If I want to have a Scrooge McDuck insane room just full of gold coins, I shouldn't start a bank. Is that what you're telling me? I can dive into and break all my limbs like in Family Guy. So one of the best clips of that show is he just
why there's the best business plan ever. Just be a writer for one of these shows, man.
Maybe
they can say and do whatever the hell.
Kind of.
Just
unless it's South Park, that's about it. They're the only ones that can get away with everything. Everyone else is.
God,
everyone
some
else
of the
is
stuff is so funny.
It is, yeah, it is. Well, I had a whole section on coffee talk, inorganic versus organic. We could touch on it briefly if you'd like to, or we could save that for another episode with your brewmaster. It's up to you.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's save that. I'm gonna get my guy that roasts, and we'll get him.
I think that'd be
get,
really pretty cool.
Actually. It would be because it would open up a lot of knowledge for me as well.
You hear about some coffees from other countries that have some wild shit done to them,
Yeah.
literally
before it gets here.
Well, then a little bit of
then
ammunition powder.
There's your way to upcharge it right there. Just a little ammo powder. Explosive coffee. You can name it.
It's
I'll tell you. What you need is you need to start getting some and sell. Maybe you do. I haven't looked. You're selling coffee, travel mugs and stuff yet?
Yeah, working on it.
Okay. Well,
supply chain issues.
Yeah, literally.
By the way, that's my business. That's my biggest thing. I trucking and railroads and all that kind of stuff. That's what I do.
The amount of like stressful grunts and sounds from both you when I'm like talking with you, and by proxy my wife Beowulf, because she's also in the industry, has just grown. And we talked to her. I talked with her yesterday about the potential strike.
Well, it just got the House just voted against it. Like that means anything, but basically what they did is said, we're going to give you as much sick time as you want. Go ahead.
Well, it wasn't 7 days, wasn't it? Because they wanted 3 days originally.
I didn't read it because
you get violently angry. Picks up his computer and punches through it. Yeah, look at him. He's sighing. He's doing the bull sigh. See, exactly.
I don't want to get into it.
We won't talk about it.
I'll go off on a rant, and we won't.
Wow.
I'll have to have another coffee before I start.
I'm visibly worried right now about how like a dangerous proximity.
What?
It's like the Hulk.
You put a red cape in front of me. What am I going to do?
Yeah,
I am a bull.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I think we should talk a little bit more about the small business thing. Obviously, my opinion before we talk with your brewmaster: inorganic versus organic. I think they're both great. And I don't think anyone knows the difference. I think it's a red herring. Like, because I did this
marketing.
Well, yeah. Marketing. Well, I did this episode. Not episode. I did a paper for college a long time ago about GMOs versus organic farming. There's a lot of stuff they don't tell you, and not to suggest either is better than the other, because the argument here, from my perspective, is you do the organic farming, the people who farm are better off.
I grew up on
chemicals.
a farm.
See, the bull understands. He knows where I'm going. The chemicals aren't, if you do organic, aren't for the farmers, and their quality of life is better. But if you do organic, then your risk of like dying from something like, mycotoxins is higher. So it's like, do I take the risk for having organic coffee?
Mycotoxins?
Mycotoxins.
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 Myco?
What is a mycotoxin?
It's a toxin, and it's a myco. Yeah, that's what it said. Yeah, we are very informed here.
Anybody, all you have to do to like really blow your mind on all this farming, organic, non-organic, all this stuff is look up what a tomato looked like 100 years ago.
Oh yeah, or carrots.
Almost anything. Tomato just came to my mind. It's nothing like you imagine it is today.
Yeah.
So we have been tweaking the genetics of everything we do for as long as we had the ability to do it. Yeah. We're not going to stop doing that. Anybody that thinks otherwise is silly. And if you go in and buy something specifically organic, good on you. If it's better for you, if it's a placebo, or if it actually works, doesn't matter to me. Good on you.
Yeah.
But it's more expensive.
That's a tag. That's a tag that I believe it's a tag they use to add another $1 or $2 to the cost.
Yeah.
And hey, if you're gonna do it, I guess that's
exactly.
free market's for.
Well, it's amazing what placebos will do for the brain. Like if I see a shoe that says Nike on it as opposed to a shoe that looks like a Nike shoe, I'm gonna buy the Nike shoe. Man, it's just
what placebos do though?
Go ahead.
They work.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
That's the everybody's like, oh, I just had, who wants a placebo on this versus the real thing? Well, there's a reason they call it a placebo. It's because it works, which tells you there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye.
Well, we'll table the organic because I do think that'd be a really fascinating conversation because I would love to know what the differences are and the background because I think it'd be really fun for our listeners and our viewers and also for me because I would love to know how this works.
See, I think that'd be awesome, but I was very excited that you're coming in today because I just love small business stories. And especially you're talking about family and all that and this. So you guys got the lease on the cotton gin and all that kind of stuff. So
we took over the lease. The family that actually owns the 8 acres that it sits on with the coffee shop and the cotton gin and a few other little businesses there. They've owned it since Anderson Clayton sold it from being a cotton gin. And there was a bunch of small businesses that ran in there. There was a tack and feed store. There was a tire shop. There was all sorts of different.
There's a candy shop or something there too, right?
There's
on the corner.
The Sweet Creek. Oh, that's a boutique.
What's a boutique? I had no idea.
It's like a craft show.
Oh, okay.
Permanent. Yeah, it's got a lot of different trinkets and different things. Check it out, Sweet Creek.
Yeah. Well, I was wrong.
Good shout out.
Because
they're great. Nicole over there, she's great. They're an awesome addition to that corner. Bring a lot of local vendors in. They give them a spotlight and kind of let them sell their different things. Between clothes and all sorts of great stuff for the holidays. I mean, great, house decorations and stuff like that.
I had no idea.
Yeah, another small business. All those businesses on that corner are all small businesses. They're all just trying to put food on the table, and they're all a bunch of really good people, and that's what makes it cool. The community part of that is what makes it really cool. It's a very odd piece of property, and I'm really
it's pretty
fortunate to share
decent size. You said 8 acres, right?
8
there?
acres. There's a little 8 acre plot.
That's almost big enough to have like a whole bunch of different vendors in there at some point. Maybe you've done that before. I know you have the gun shows and stuff there.
Yes, we actually did. We used to have a craft market there that we held on to for a while, but we got so busy with the wedding side of things that we had to do that. And that's when Sweet Creek came around. It was right as we stopped doing the craft shows. So a lot of the vendors that we used to have at our shows are now permanently in their shop. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, no, it's really cool because I think that, like you said, small business, it runs 80% supposedly, and I think that when you give your money to a small business, you are doing more good for your community than anything else because those people live in your neighbors and they're everything about small base. Get away from big corporations and the small businesses really is awesome. If we could only figure out a way to get the government to want to make that a thing, but they don't see that really being, that's bad for them.
Yeah, they've got a lot of interesting programs for the SBA.
Yes.
And there's a lot of money. Obviously, the whole PPP thing during the COVID was great for both. A lot of people abuse it, of course. There's tons of graft that goes on anytime there's a handout of any kind. But having said that, there are programs out there. Sometimes I wonder how influential some of those programs are, how accessible they really are. But to your point, a small business, the money made in a small business comes from the community and goes back out into the same community it's from. Yeah. Large corporations, it rarely works that way.
Nope.
And that's a huge thing that people don't think about.
Well, yeah, I think we should segue into the small business versus big business section. So I looked at the SBA. I went to their website. I read some things. I'm now an expert. So the Office of Advocacy states that around 32.5 million small businesses exist in the U.S. Prior to the year our Lord COVID, these small businesses accounted for half of the GDP and jobs in America. Per what you mentioned, 81% of them, or around 26.4 million, have no employees and are termed non-employer firms, while the remaining 19%, around 6 million, have paid employees or employer firms. The other half of the economy is concentrated in over 20,000 large businesses. Many would think, now due to the sheer number of small businesses, that influence would have some sort of impact on federal government policy. Unfortunately, it does not. There's no equal negotiating power, unfortunately, especially when the pandemic hit. And many people would probably think that that was the alternative. Now, I would love to talk about, personally, your experience with, what went on over the last 2 years. If there's anything in particular that kind of stuck out to you. I know that, the atmosphere of, Pinal County and Arizona is much different than some states. But based on, some of the stuff that I'm reading, it doesn't seem like a lot of the numbers that the SBA is pushing still are up to date. They're referencing stuff from 2017, 2018.
Yeah, there's a lot of small businesses that didn't survive, that didn't make it, and that's really it's a tough thing. If you're not able to adapt and figure out where you need to be, you're never going to succeed in it. And unfortunately, the COVID thing was a massive curveball. I mean, it just who would have sitting back and thinking about the last 2 years. I couldn't have ever even thought that it would have gotten to this point. Mm-hmm. Like I knew it was going to get bad, but I didn't realize it was going to be this bad. Luckily, we were actually very successful during COVID because Sheriff Lamb, being in Pinal County, he told us we did not need to worry about being shut down. So our wedding venue picked up business because we did funeral services because the church is closed. We did wedding ceremonies that other places canceled, and so we did cheap half off weddings. And I was as busy as I could have been, and that was awesome. I mean, Sheriff Lamb had a huge part in the success of all of our businesses, and the reason that we have a coffee shop now in the location we do is because we were able to maintain open status.
Wolf has to tell you about his wedding escapades here over the last 2 years.
So Beowulf and I, during our Lord COVID, we got married three times. We legally got married at the
get this
the
right.
courthouse. I don't remember. I remember.
Make sure that timeline is right on.
Yeah, the courthouse was like a few months before the actual. I want to say it was like a month before the actual date. I don't remember.
That's where you just had to.
Where we signed the paper and we were married at that point. Our actual wedding happened in their backyard on the most patriotic weekend of all time. Technically July 3rd, but July 4th. That's how I'm going to remember is America. The eagle screamed over us. As I said, I do, and Beowulf said I do, and the eagle flew down and, it handed us some ammunition and some coffee. It was great. It was phenomenal. It was just the most incredible experience. So we had it was like pulling hair trying to get vendors, trying to get people to come through. And eventually we found some people did a phenomenal job.
They did.
With that being said, prior to doing the thing in their backyard, which was kind of a last minute thing because of COVID, we were originally going to get married over the pond yonder in Hawaii. Oh. And we couldn't back out without losing a significant amount of money. So we basically had a second wedding photo shoot at a venue that no longer, because of the state of Hawaii, can offer weddings.
Wow.
Because of what you just said earlier, they still do other things.
They're doing some lagging ones from
so many things canceled, and they had to sit and do nothing for so long, and the vendors went out and did
because of red
things.
tape as well.
All of that. They're basically out of the wedding business now. And I mean, we lived in Southern California at the time, and over the last 2 years, there was a coffee. What was the name of the coffee shop in Escondido?
Coffee with a K.
Coffee. Was that what it's called? Coffee shop.
You might have heard or seen about the owner. He made national news. I think they were tied somehow with being outspoken
because they refused to close.
Yeah, it was something like that.
All kinds.
I think you may have heard about it.
But the whole point is these were all. I mean, I think everybody at the beginning of the pandemic went, okay, we're going to do what we can for a few weeks to survive this. We're all in this together. I'm thinking most everybody thought that way.
I can't believe you said that phrase. I've stopped saying it entirely. Not even in my vernacular anymore.
It because I remember Beowulf watching High School Musical and hearing the background of it.
Zac Efron was part of the planning process of that exact phrase. Yeah, that America decided to adopt.
He's traveling the world didn't he get stung by a? He was like almost killed in Australia or something, wasn't he?
Maybe.
I don't know. I've got all this junk flying around my head.
Hopefully you're okay.
I think he's okay. Yeah.
Troy Bolton's all right. But he's always Troy. He's Troy in my heart.
But anyway, these businesses, they went out of business because they were non-essential.
Yeah. Which is
whatever the hell that means.
Yeah. What is essential?
Target was essential.
20,000. All those 20,000 big businesses are surely essential.
That's right.
So,
but not me.
That's the unfortunate part about it.
I want to throw in something here. This is.
Are you throwing a curveball now?
No, it's not a curveball. It's something I've mentioned before. You haven't heard.
Softball pitch.
No, Let me see. It was Gaylord Perry. Yeah, he was the knuckleball expert. Died today. 90.
Are you serious?
87 years old. Yeah, that's why I was going to say this is a knuckleball.
Rip.
Yeah. Like I said, I got a lot of junk flying around
Yeah.
my head. I don't know
where
if it's
are
all
you?
right or wrong.
Anyway, knuckleball party. Let's go.
It just went in and out of my brain.
Just like a knuckleball.
Like a knuckleball.
Good old Gaylord threw a hard one, man.
The fact of the matter is you got to think about why there's so much pressure to support big business and not support small business. Because there's a lot of whys to that. Mm-hmm. The number one why is regulatory capture, which is basically a form of cyclical influencing monetarily to governmental agencies that regulate the same businesses that they're getting elected into. That's regulatory capture.
Lobbying.
So, but think about it this way. You mentioned that out of those 81% of the small businesses, at least 3/4 of them, I don't remember the number you just said, but about 3/4 of them were non-employee. Paper. Yeah. The number doesn't matter. Yeah. The number really doesn't matter. Just a whole lot.
3/4,
right?
26.4 million.
So unpack that a little bit. That's at least one person on millions and millions of small businesses that don't pay a dime for a particular type of insurance. Workman's comp. Yeah. And so in California, since their AB5 went through, and you know where I'm going with this, how do you get everybody to start paying insurance?
You can't.
You make them employees. Yep. That's what you do. So there's just another way for the various governmental agencies that want to see new revenue come in to supply their general coffers or some specific boondoggle that they want to do. It's just another way to grab money. And that's another cost that you and I are going to be burdened with.
Yep.
Well, me too. I mean, I'm going to go and, try and buy a coffee. It's going to be $75. I'm going to go and get a bottle of water. It's going to be $800.
You're the perfect example because you're Mr. Lone Wolf, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So you don't have to pay workman's comp on your
I don't. I just think the unfortunate part too on that is I personally think the non-employee companies inflate the numbers a little bit to make it a little bit more digestible when it comes to how many companies have gone out of business. Because
what do you mean?
If you don't have any employees.
Well, it's also the definition of what
a
business really is, because you can have a DBA, you can do it under your own social, you can start a corporation or an LLC, you can do a lot of different things. Well, you have
to imagine at least 750,000 of those companies are all OnlyFans people. So, I mean, you take that out, then the number goes down a little bit.
I'm a TikTok influencer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of inflationary metrics here, but I do think, to the point that you mentioned a second ago, those big corporations have lobbying power up the yin yang, and that makes them a government ally, in my opinion. Unfortunately, because it's very coercive in a lot of ways. Where if I want to go to mom and pop shop to get something, but it's shut down because of whatever the next fucking problem is, out of control race car drivers. That's going to be the next pandemic. Because it's shut down, then I'm forced to go to Target, and all the revenue that would have gone to the small business then gets captured by the Targets and the Amazons of the world. Now, to your point, the big companies were deemed essential, which allowed them to stay open. Not sure why, because normally you'd think that all of the bacteria would coagulate around a place where a lot of people go, but don't ask that question. While small businesses were forced to close partially or completely, spending, which could no longer be done at the small mom and pop stores, was eventually done at the big businesses. So I think that's the unfortunate byproduct that everyone and their brother will probably be talking about till the end of time. I'm sure there'll be classes on this a decade or two later from here.
All you really have to do is look at the number of new giant Amazon warehouses that were put in.
Yeah,
the planes they bought, everything to see what happened. And I'm not sitting here saying I don't like to get at my Amazon package.
Aren't they doing layoffs right now?
Everybody's doing layoffs. Yeah. Here it comes, guys. I mean, you can see it a mile away.
Oh yeah. My wife works for a large tech company in the state, and it's coming for them too. Mm-hmm. And it's they were just a few years ago, right before this COVID thing, they were hiring, and they were trying to steal people from other tech companies, and they were giving them as much of a bonus, and they were trying to get them, and now it's like flip switch.
I told people that when they were jumping off. I had some drivers and things leave my trucking company because somebody was offering them $5 more an hour, and I went, okay,
yeah.
Last over there, you're going to be the first to go.
Yep.
They're all gone.
Well, the reality is the last 2 years kind of created this weird cycle of problems that we're going to continue facing, because you got the big companies that have most of the employee base for the most point, in my perspective. They have a huge employee base. They have the deep pockets to pay for nonsense and have, I don't know, like wine Wednesdays and puffed up sofa Saturdays, so like it's they have the money for all that stuff, and the people go there to get hired, as you were saying, to get paid a lot of money, and then they get fired only to try and return to mom and pop's places that can't hire them.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's the answer. This is the answer that I think.
Oh, you got one.
I have one. The IRS is going to hire 87,000 of you to work for them. And I think that'll be the answer. That's all this is. It's just to try and balloon the corporation up so they can be more effective. The DMV will have a 500,000 new employee base. It's going to be great.
Wow.
That's what I think it is. Everything comes back to the IRS. Everything.
Everything does. Unfortunately, it really does.
Death and taxes. Yeah, so on the metrics that I polled, very interesting metrics I think we should talk about. So in October of 2020, the SBA released some information on the current amount of businesses in the United States. And they sourced this information from 2017. So they pushed this information out in October of 2020, and they sourced it from October 2017. And about that time, there's around 31.5 million businesses in the United States. The net new jobs from 2000 to 2019 was 10.5 million for small businesses and 5.6 for large businesses. And then the quarterly small business job gains, 1992 to 2019, kind of steady. There was a dip in 2009. I wonder what happened there. But for the most part, it was kind of steady up until 2018. Now, I looked at their next little report that came out in April of, I believe, 2021. And what they did is they sourced information all the way up to 2018 on the amount of small businesses in the country. So they're right around 33 million. And then they went, when it came to the net new jobs, 1995 to 2020, small businesses was 12.7 million and large businesses was 7.9. So there's a little bit of a jump there. And then the thing that gets me is the quarterly small business job gains from 2000 to 2020. They show this massive dip at around probably 2019, early 2020, and then a rebound, and they've cut off the rest of the graph, and the graph looks like it's going down. So my biggest thing is, when do you guys think we are finally going to actually see the accurate numbers? Because data that I looked at later from, again, April of 2021 talks about how nationally 34% of small businesses are closed compared to January of 2020. 34%. And that is just blended average. In places like, dear God, San Francisco, it's 48%. Or in, New York City, it's 42%. And in our God-fearing Phoenix, it's 31%. So my question is, what's the actual numbers? Because I don't think we have them.
You don't have them, and you'll never have them. There's a lot of stuff for that's going to go unreported because you're just not going to see it. They're not going to tell you how bad it was, because if you had the right data and the right people looked at it and saw it, they'd go, "What the fuck did you guys do to us?" Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just don't think it'll ever. I
remember back when I went to university 100 years ago, I took a stats class. We used an abacus at the time.
Well, you rolled there in your Flintstones car with the...
Yeah, I know. That's why I got such calluses on
the circle wheels, rock wheels then? Or were
they were
still
square
squares?
At the time.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Makes sense. Right before the circle revolution.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You skipped right over the triangle one, went straight to circles, which is, thank God right. for us. I mean,
I know my geometry.
Yeah. I'm not a biologist. Just don't ask me. So...
But what the hell was I going to say now?
When you're in college, stats class.
Yeah. He does this to me all the time. He throws me off base, and he does it on purpose.
You deal with the most curveballs for me. You really do.
Yeah. Swerve balls.
Anyway, stats class.
Stats class. Those who own the stats own how to show the stats. That's all it's really about. And, these government statisticians, they are who they are. They may be biased and may be not biased. They're throwing a bunch of stats together, but it's how they're presented that's advocates the direction we're going. In the number of small businesses, non-employee small business versus employee small, all those things are interesting, but you have to define what the hell that means. like we talked about a minute ago, are these DBAs, are these people that are opening an Etsy shop? You know, is it somebody that just threw up a bunch of stuff on eBay originally as a garage sale? And now
I'm
they
making
have to qualify.
tons on Poshmark right
But see, I'm just using this as a tiny little micro example. You used to be able to put stuff up on eBay, and if you make at the time, if you made under $600 a year on that, you're just doing it like you would a garage sale. You make over that, you are a business now. You have to be qualified as a business now. And if somebody has those numbers, they can chase you for taxes. Why do you think they're trying to go to a non-paper currency kind of scenario coming up? They want to track you. They want, if you have a Venmo account and you put down something in your Venmo and it's business related, they have something you can track back. And I say they, it's some ubiquitous they out there. I'm not talking
Klaus Schwab.
Exactly. No, maybe.
I'm everywhere.
He is like that.
The WEF is your new religion. You know, yeah.
I think that's probably what he would want.
Maybe. Yeah. Isn't he like 800 years old or something like that?
Possibly.
Drinking children's blood to stay alive.
He could possibly one of those from what was the series of vampire movies.
With like Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah.
The greatest actress of all time.
She is the greatest actress of all time. Yeah. Especially in that outfit.
Yeah. That's her and Alexandria Daddario. Yeah. Yeah.
But in any event, my whole point is that you can't believe this stuff. You've got to be able to go to multiple. So it's kind of like social media today. If we talked about an echo chamber when we first started talking, if you want an echo chamber and you want to believe all the shit that's in your head is right, you can find an echo chamber to give you that validation. But if you want to be like a real person, a logical person, trying to figure out what real and what's not, then look to multiple sources. Pull stuff off the SBA. Pull stuff from different sources of information that you can get to, and kind of use your own brain to determine what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And then take your steps. It's like with your small business. I don't know how exact you started it. I know that when I started my first one, I did a terrible job of planning. Terrible. And I'm kind of known for my planning as a person.
You got one of those like little tickler files, right? And now it's a BlackBerry.
Actually, my first business it was a Palm Pilot.
Oh God.
You guys remember that freaking thing?
No, I don't. I know what it is, but I don't remember it. Yeah. I've seen it in photos.
I wish I'd have kept the phone, my first cell phone. It was one of those giant brick things.
Worth millions
where you
now.
could feel the radiation on this side of your head. So, but I was terrible business planning. And if I had to go back and tell my younger self what to do, I'd have said, sit down at the time, probably with a piece of paper, since I really didn't think about computers that much at the time. But I would have said, plan this thing out, go over the what if scenarios, come up with it. Don't be Mr. Conservative. I'm not saying that. But know what the hell you're getting into before you get into it. Because I can tell you that my first business, I was doing so much revenue, just revenue. And I was adding employees and paying this. And it took me a long time before I realized that if any of that revenue slowed down or stopped, I was dead.
Just like that. I mean,
yeah. So you've got to really analyze your shit.
I think that's definitely some of the being in business with family. My grandfather actually had a few businesses as well. He owned a couple gas stations and convenience stores in the valley, and then they started a parking lot sweeping business and did a few other different ventures. And that's a lot of the stuff that I've been blessed to not have to really learn myself, because my dad has been able to step in and say, hey, think about this and do this. And that's the mentorship from him on that kind of thing is very true. But he was in a business that one day the revenue stopped. They were doing a lot of money, and overnight the contract was canceled, and that was it. And it was like a whole shift of what are we doing next? And that's where we came into the gun shows is at that point. And I think that we have really been able to pull off that from his success and from his failures and learn that kind of thing. But I think that, you're right. Like we tried to do as much planning. Like I said, my wife is half, 3/4, 7/8 of my brain, and she's done a lot of planning and done a lot of things like that. But there's still stuff that, like with the whole COVID thing, that it was just a curveball. Like, we're learning. I still don't know what I don't know. I mean, it's that kind of perspective to look back and be able to see like, hey, I made it through this, but what lessons can I take from that? And what lessons can I do from that? But you're exactly right. If that revenue stream stops, like that's it, you're done. So how do you diversify? How do you get into multiple markets and do different things? I'm in a wedding venue. I'm in gun shows. I'm in coffee and ammo sales. I'm trying to put my eggs in different baskets that will hopefully be able to keep us going no matter what kind of bullshit comes down the road of where are they going to close us next.
I actually think you might have hit on what would be a part of the real answer for small business that is just not out there to a very large degree, and that is some sort of mentorship programs. I mean, true mentorship programs. And if because there's a ton of people out there that want to do their own thing. At one time in the United States, it used to be the American dream was own your own house. And, the government did what it could to make that happen for a lot of people. And we had the 2008 bomb partly because of it.
Now Klaus Schwab is taking it away.
In BlackRock, right?
Oh,
Not the BlackRock coffee, but the other BlackRock. But, but the other American dream was kind of to own your own business. But as we talked about with the guy that tried to open his own restaurant, and just because he liked to eat, if he'd have had a program to fit into where he was an apprentice to somebody for a period of time, he'd probably be successful, or at least had a much better chance of being successful. Because I don't know what the stats are, but it used to be like 1 in every 5 businesses open would fail.
Oh, it's the first 5 years. It's higher now. It's so in the first year, I don't have the stats on the paper. I chose not to. I omitted them for some reason. 80-something% last in the first year, and then it drops to like 20-something in year 2 or 3.
So revolving door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's from both of you to end, because we're coming right up on the end of the conversation. Kevin, what advice would you give to new business owners? I know that you don't know what you don't know and you're still learning, but is there anything that if you could go back, to yourself 2.5, 3, 4 years ago, what would you tell yourself? And then we'll go to you, Bull, because you've got like 100 or so year of experience, like hundreds of years, really.
I would go back into the start of this and tell myself to really be conscious of costs. I think that was the biggest thing during our construction phase of our shop and our project. Was there was a lot of different things that I spent money on thinking it was going to be good for the business that ended up not. And I put us in kind of a hard financial position in the beginning of this. Is we didn't take out any loans, and we paid for everything up front, but there was some costs that we had to redo in construction and things like that. So think about, plan more, and think about how certain purchases are going to affect the future and what position that's going to put you in when you start. Coffee is expensive. Restaurants are very expensive. Coffee's there's a Hyundai Sonata sitting on the tabletop of my coffee shop that makes the espresso. I mean, they're ridiculous expensive, and you don't know that, and you don't understand that until you really dive into this. And like I said, I have no business being in business, but coming in and learning this, I've learned a lot, and I have a lot of respect for small businesses now, more so than I had before, especially small restaurants and different things like that. The cost that it takes to run that is just insane.
And you think about it, one of the main goals for small businesses is to what? To be a larger business, right? And some people want, I want a little coffee shop and a bookstore because I like to read and I like to drink coffee, and I've got enough money to retire and do that. But that's not most people. No. Most people are starting something to grow.
Some people want a bank that they can take gold coins from, jump into in their own house. Exactly. And that's,
I could give advice.
Exponential dreams.
I need to listen to my own advice most of the time. But, there was a saying I learned a long time ago, and it was put your goals in cement, put your plans in sand. And what that really means is that if you have a vision for your future and you really, really want to earn it, then put it in cement. Draw it in cement. Let it harden. That is where I'm going to be. Excuse me.
Dear God.
Wow, I wasn't cracking up. That was just a voice.
You have to start all over now.
So I wasn't getting too emotional there. But if you put your goals in cement, but you understand that from here to here, it's not a straight line. Your plans are going to change on the way. There's circumstances that are going to hit you. It might be the next pandemic. It might be the employee that tried to abscond with half your money. Could be all kinds of things. I've had most of it happen to me. So you got to be willing to change your plans if you really, really want that goal you're after.
Yeah. Well, I didn't provide any advice, so I'll probably provide any advice. I'll provide some. For the 95% of single males out there, it's probably your crippling addiction to OnlyFans. Just cut it off. Just find something else. Put the money, the $5 to $10 to $35 that you're giving those TikTok thoughts, put it into your own company. Do something. Become a bank. Ever thought about that? Maybe not. But yeah, that's my contribution because I wanted to be a part of the club. But Kevin, it has been wonderful talking with you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
It's been very fun.
It has been. I think we should near future for season 3 Wolf and Bull. We can have the
barista special?
the expert behind the curtains.
We could do that.
Come in. We can talk about coffee in detail.
It's funny because I have a friend of mine. He lives over in China, as a matter of fact. He ex British military guy, and he. I'll have to call him to verify this entirely, but I know at one time he was making specific machines to sell to, and it was everybody but Starbucks over here. So it was the machines you're talking about over there. So he has a lot of expertise.
Well, all I know is I'm in the wrong business apparently because
it's
dear
big time.
God.
Well, think about a good cup of coffee like he's got going on.
Yeah, it's a good.
I mean, you know what? Word of mouth is worth everything.
There's been days where I would punch
get over there and buy some of his coffee, buy some of his ammo.
Please.
Do it.
And if you're not married, get married there. No.
I mean, that is a good suggestion. Really, it is. I mean, I know for a fact there's been days where I would punch a small baby bear in the face for a cup of
small baby bear.
Like, only you can prevent forest fires. Apparently, he's Kermit the Frog. Bop right in the face. For a good cup of Joe. So, but yeah, Kevin, it's been great. I think this episode is going to provide our listeners and our viewers with some insight, into what it's like to run a small business. I know that it's not something that people normally think about all day, every day. And I think that it's good to kind of get that insight and that perception. Because then you can appreciate the small businesses around you, your community, and you can stop giving all of your wages to companies like Amazon that definitely have your best interest at heart. But yeah, for our listeners, where can they find you? How can they support the Americano Ammunition Coffee Company?
We are 1522 West Ocotillo in Queen Creek. We are online at ammoandcoffee.com. We're just getting ready to start our online sales of our different coffee blends. So you can order that and do that up. But come by the shop and come check us out. Especially if you're local or if you're not. I get a lot of people that are coming into town just visiting for the holidays. Come check me out, and they've bought coffee and taken it home with them. So we'll get you your fix wherever you need.
That is awesome.
Hell yeah,
absolutely.
Legal drug usage. I love it. I love it. Well, I think it's been a great episode. For our listeners and our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. Namaste to the Wolf and Bull family. It's been a wonderful conversation. We'll do this again soon, and we won't see you next week. Bull and I are kind of going on a trip, so early-ish kind of happy holiday season. This episode's going to come out towards the end of December, so happy Christmas, New Year time. That's my wishes to you. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.